Okay, so hopefully this is going to load and this is going to work. I've had to change some things here, switch some things around because I have a problem with the bandwidth for loading. Anyway, so this is a video about people asking me what do I think are the best polyglots that are on YouTube, because that's the ones that everyone here is obviously going to be acquainted with. And so once again, I just want to delineate the difference between polyglots and linguists. So a lot of these people are calling themselves linguists, and they're not. Linguists have academic credentials and credibility and have done a lot of work and postgraduate degrees, and also most of them have fluency in another language, at least one other language, because many linguistics programs require that you prove that you're fluent in another language other than your L1. And the difference with polyglots are just multilingual. That's it. They don't have credentials, they don't have academic backgrounds, they don't know about languages really. So what they're saying is a lot of hackneyed stuff anyway. So I get these requests about who I think who's good. So my criteria, like anyone who does actual testing for fluency, of course there's going to be lexicon challenges, there's going to be syntactical and morphological in the languages, ease of use, ability to express themselves, but it really goes to the biggest area, the one that's the hardest to get, is prosody, which is a super segmental in linguistics aspects of language usage, and that is stress, intonation, knowing what to use. That's a characteristic of the language. For example, Charles Berlitz said that multilingual speakers in Europe were judged on their French, and that's because French is extremely hard for example, Anglophones to learn. Because they stress like they're in English, and English is a stress time language, and French and Spanish and Italian are syllable stress languages. So if you try to put the English on top of French and try to speak French as if it were English, you're not comprehensible to other people. So that's one of the big things. And a lot of the people that are on YouTube are basically doing that. They're overlaying their L1 onto an L2, and so I'll get to that in a second. I want to say that there's a lot of people who speak. I don't include native speakers. That's just too obvious, right? That they're going to be good in whichever language. But there's a lot of people who've learned one other language. They speak their L1 and they speak an L2. And there's a lot of people, especially for some reason, I know there's Japanese guys that have been in Japan for 5, 7, 10 years, and their Japanese is extremely good. They've put in a lot of work. And there are others, of course, in single languages, but I'm looking for people who speak two or three other languages, as L2, L3, or L4, and how well they do. Now, there are a lot of people that you're going to know just because of their popularity on this YouTube. And what do I think of them? Okay, for example, let's see. Okay, how about Benny? Benny has done Spanish. It's all right. It's pretty good. His French is good. He is Chinese is not. His Mandarin, when he did that, was not good. He was doing the same things in English, hitting the stress, not controlling the tones, and doing fillers. This is one of the biggest problems that English speakers have when they try to speak another language. They want which is a way to say I'm not done speaking, but I don't know what I'm going to talk about. But that doesn't exist in other languages. They don't use that for that, okay? So that's one of the biggest errors I see. And then also see Lao Shu does this is the exact same thing. When he went to speak Thai in the Oriental grocery store, the guy didn't understand because he was incomprehensible, but yet he thought he was doing something. And in some of the other languages that I've heard him attempt, he's doing the same thing. He's got the same stress pattern as if he were speaking English. Since he doesn't live in the milieu of the speakers, he's never going to crack this unless he gets professional help from a linguist, which is probably not going to ever do. And okay, so how about Steve Kaufman? Steve Kaufman, I've heard him in several languages. He likes to do interviews on certain topics, basically the stuff that he's selling, trying to get everyone to agree with his technique and what they're doing there is the best way. He still doesn't understand crashing. That's what happens when you're not academically pressed to do things. So anyway, he is. I've heard his Spanish. He inserts a lot of Italian whether he's cognizant of it or not, which is fine if you understand Italian too. His French is is understandable. He's not doesn't sound like a native of either. He doesn't sound Parisian. He doesn't sound Quebecois. I've spent a lot of time in Quebec, and it's strange. He says that he grew up in Montreal in the West End, which is where the English langlophone vive. So it's kind of strange because he has a strange thing. He has the characteristic diphthong sound of English speakers in Canada who are not from Quebec and not from New Brunswick. There's a sound that's made that's unique to Canadian speakers of English, and he makes it, which is very strange since he supposedly grew up in Quebec. Anyway, so no, and I've heard some other languages, and he's getting through them, but his prosody is not as good as the people that I'm going to mention. There are a lot of people who are reciting text. Basically, they've got things on the screen that they're reading, or they have a little set monologue that they've gone over and over, which is sort of like a political speech. And that, through practice, gets better and better. Obviously, everything gets better through practice, right, if you do it enough. But I'm not including those people. There's a guy who's doing that. For example, there's a Mexican guy who lives in the United States, but he's lived in the United States so long that his speech patterns are U.S., but his stuff's okay. There's a 17-year-old kid in Utah, probably 18 or 19 now. I don't know when he's put up his thing, and he's reading, but he's 17. He can get it because his prosody is good for what he's doing, but he's just reading. He's not interacting, because I want to look at communication and free flow. That's what languages are designed for. They're designed for communication face to face. That's how languages developed. Anyway, so all right, so. There's some other people too, but I'm not going to include them. I'm going to give honorable mention though to people like Mike Campbell, who unfortunately just didn't get the academic credentials that he so desperately wants to come across with. But his Mandarin, his Taiwanese is good. A lot of people denigrate him on his other languages, but he's started using those. He's started living in an environment with them. It's just like a triathlete. If you haven't done a triathlon in 5 years, your ability is going to be down and it erodes. These are both performance skills, and they erode. The skills erode if you don't do anything with them. That's a big connection a lot of people haven't grasped, I don't think, as language is a performance skill. So he's very good in two languages. In fact, Benny was speaking with him, right, trying to speak with him. And so I know people have met Benny. Several people have met Benny and said that he rehearses a lot for anything he's going to shoot on camera. Whether he does it with other people around or not, he's still getting the stuff ready. But anyway, so Mike Campbell is honorable mention. If this was reading and writing, then it would be Professor, PhD Arguelles, because it's phenomenal what he's been able to do. He's a philologist, not a linguist. There's a lot of overlap, but there's a lot of differences too between the two. And his Germanic languages, obviously he did university work, post-grad work in Germany, so his German is extremely high. I've heard him speak Dutch. It's very good, and that was off the cuff, and he did well. And obviously, I'm gonna assume his French is very high because he's had to do a lot of academic research in French. And so if it were reading and writing, he's definitely the top. But I'm going off of oral presentation, ability to flow. So okay, so let's jump in. Now there's some other guys that I've heard, and there's some people, like I said, that there's some Japanese sites that are not on YouTube. So okay, if I'm sticking with YouTube only, then they don't count. But they've got audio up, and some of these guys are learning Mandarin, and so if you go from that, because their Japanese is phenomenal, the Hongo is incredible, and if you go from that, then it's really good. But there's a Slavic guy. His name is Vladimir, I think, and Slavic speakers have an advantage because their language has every pitch, basically, or tone range, how you want to look at it. If you want to look at it on the hertz, have it all. That's why their ear is. Everything is distinctive to them, so that's why they're able to hear things that other languages that fit in different parts of the sound spectrum don't pick up on. That's why it's difficult for English speakers with French, because it's a really narrow band, and it's very hard to discriminate what those sounds really are. because the nasal sounds are close to each other, and on and on. But the Vlad guy was doing, I don't know, at least 11 languages. Incredible. But you know, he just doesn't want to claim on YouTube, which is fine, you know. But okay, so we jump into some people now. There's an Iranian guy that speaks 19, but he doesn't have a lot of people to practice with. If he had people to practice with, he would be up, way up. I saw him interviewed, and of course he's got at least two down well. His English is great, and so it's just an L2 for him, not an L1. So I'll include him in there, okay? But if he were speaking with more people, he'd be really way, way, way up. But okay, so we go now to the people I think that are incredible. And Steve Kaufman talked to one of them, and that is Luca. Luca is phenomenal. His prosody is incredible. He's an Italian native speaker, an L1 Italian. His Spanish, he passes for Spanish. I could have said that he's Spanish if I did not know he were Italian. And I'm listening, and I spent 10 years in Spain, so I know what Italian people sound like in Spanish. Very good. When Steve Kaufman called him and talked to him in German, kind of caught him off guard. But the longer they were speaking, the better the Deutsch was from Luca, and Steve's was the same. And Steve's was very narrow on certain things, and Luca was filling in, explicating a lot of stuff. So he was demonstrating a higher level than Steve, and a better prosody than Steve. And then there's Richard. Now Richard and Luca have talked with each other, and they've switched back and forth in several languages, and they haven't set it up. So I've got to give that incredible, marks. That's also once again phenomenal. And Richard's ability is incredible. Also, his prosody is very, very good. Only thing I could, if you were looking for a weak spot, and it's that's like, he's so high. You look at what the weaknesses are, like in any academic thing. You don't slap people on the back like Kaufman and Lausch you want to do all the time. You're looking at analyzing what they're doing, and that would be his Spanish. It's just because of his influence from other languages that he learned first. Anyway, so and I don't know, he's working on Turkish, I think. I don't know if he's working on it now or if that was a little while ago. Polish, I think, before that, but German, phenomenal. French is very good. Anyway, so speaking with Luke, I don't know which one of those to put ahead of the other one. I can't. I just, it's too difficult. I think that Richard has more languages than Luca, but Luca's prosody probably is better in the ones that they mutually speak. I don't know. So I can't decide on that one. But now I'm going to go to the guy that I think that blows them all away. He's not on YouTube very much anymore. It's because he's got a real job. He works as an interpreter at high-level functions and is a TV host and working with some government organizations also in big businesses because he's done other things. And that's Stu J. Now, when I heard this guy originally, I didn't see him. I thought he was a native Thai because he lived in Thailand for at least 10 years, I think, and his Thai is a native level. He was a host on a Thai television program. When I heard this, I didn't see it, and I was like, "That's a Thai." And then I saw it. It's like, what? And I thought, okay, maybe the guy grew up in Thailand, but he didn't. So his maternal grandfather spoke to him in Italian, so he has that. His Indonesian is good. He started doing Vietnamese for a week or something and was already good. Of course, his lexicon wasn't huge, but his prosody was phenomenal. And the thing is that since he also studied Sanskrit and he also could speak Urdu and Hindi, since they're related to each other, just a slight differences, political differences more than anything else, not phonological so much, or script differences, but the Sanskrit background made him capable of understanding a lot of things, and he has a background also in understanding Proto-Thai, for example. So all these languages he gets the connection, and he's a very good teacher too. That's another thing. He's phenomenal. His ability to teach the Thai consonants and vowels, which are pretty complex because there's tone rules involved with them. Although the script was developed because of the tone rules, people don't learn it that way as native speakers. They're on a site and understanding sort of things, just like most people are in all their languages. You see it enough, and with this and that, you don't learn from the mathematical formula, although the mathematical formula might be there. Okay, So Stu J is phenomenal. He's just way above everybody else. Nobody touches him, and that's who I would say on YouTube. Now I haven't seen everybody, and once again, my criteria is people interacting with other people and their prosody and non-scripted conversations also. Because the other people aren't doing that. A lot of people are speaking, doing a monologue, doing a little thing. My name is, well, what are they babbling about? Horrible things like, oh, me llamo, Fred, je m'appelle Fred, ich heiße Friedrich, wow, not impressive, um, watashi no name wa Fred des, this is not impressive, or yeah, kunchuaraika, answer that question. But anyway, so he is the best, Stu J. And once again, I just want to cover that if you're going to leave comments, to do it with a name and a real photo, okay? Because this is a higher standard. This isn't the hackneyed slap each other in the back. There's some sort of follow the standards of empirical thought here. So if you disagree, cite things, prove things. Okay, I'll talk to you later.